Cane Hill have recently been on a headline tour of the UK, and they played the Underworld in London, along with the Gloom in the Corner, InDevth and SWARM6IX. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go to that gig and check out all of those sets. Now, I've been a big fan of Cane Hill over the years, ever since I discovered them from their song Time Bomb, like several years ago. And their latest album this year, called A Piece of Me I Never Let You Find, is one of my favorites of 2024. So I was so stoked to get a chance to see them live and hopefully see a bunch of songs off that record live. But before we get to their set in particular, the opening band, called SWARM6IX, I hadn't heard of before. And I'm sure I'm getting the genres here wrong. I'm not really that knowledgeable about all the various genres of music in the world. But it seems like it's a sort of grime sort of / new metal thing with a bit of hardcore. It actually was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed their set. The frontman was extremely charismatic, nailed all of these quite fast flows at times, was very intense, very confident. It's quite hard being the first band on where the crowd is largely possibly not very familiar with your music at all, but did so in a very undaunted way. You know, they didn't have the biggest rounds of applause because I think people were confused. It's unlike any other music we've necessarily heard for the most part. I think that's a great thing. It might be the kind of thing you're watching it going, this could take off. This could be a whole new genre that this band could help kind of push through. It was really interesting, visually entertaining, sonically very impressive as well. Everything about their setup sounded great. The drummer was fantastic. Just vibing and grooving. So much groove in the playing as well as his just kind of movements. Really good. I love the whole thing. I'm confused as to why the guitarist is wearing a mask and wearing a stab-proof or bulletproof vest, but okay, fine. What do you want to do? But it was really very entertaining, very good, and far better than I expected an opening band of a smallish gig to be. So that was a delight, and I want to check out some more of SWARM6IX. That was really cool. After them was a band called InDevth, which when you have a V followed by TH, the devth, InDevth is a very hard name to say. But anyway, they were pretty decent. I think my brother absolutely loved them because he's a big fan of hardcore music. I like some hardcore. These folks were pretty hardcore, you know, in the realm of like Throne and Knocked Loose and Kublai Khan sort of thing. Just pounds of energy from start to finish. Every single song was just like, fucking fuck you. It's pretty intense, but really good. Like, genuinely, of that genre, they did a fantastic job. There was a tsunami of power from the start to the finish. There was one moment halfway through, there was like technical issues that the drummer had to stop and fix for a little bit, and that took them like a couple of minutes, which I really felt for them because the whole energy will die during that time, but they managed to very quickly pick that up. I think they handled that really well, and for most of the last half of their set, you could see that the vocalist from Cane Hill, Elijah, was at the side of the stage, clearly vibing and loving what they were doing, and just like, you can hear him squealing with delight at certain moments and breakdowns, and just enticing the crowd. Like, this is fucking awesome. That was great. Went over really well. It was a very high energy, well performed. For a band I'm not familiar with, they were absolutely amazing. Genuinely fantastic set. They were followed then by the main support band on this tour, which is the Gloom in the Corner. Now, I'd only heard maybe two, but definitely one of their songs before as part of doing reactions on Twitch for the channel here, and it wasn't quite for me. It was very sort of concept driven. There's a lot of character work within there, which is not really my style of music I tend to gravitate to, and it sort of chops and changes music-wise quite a lot. And so, but I was interested to see maybe this is a different thing live, and maybe I'll connect with it live in a way that I haven't, you know, conceptually just with the sound. Unfortunately, I still didn't really connect with it. I mean, they're good enough musicians. They had a confidence about them. They were very commanding of the audience. They seemed quite comfortable, and they're clearly very well loved. I get the impression that people that like the Gloom in the Corner don't just like them, they love the Gloom in the Corner. I've not yet met someone who's kind of like, they're okay, I don't really mind them. It's sort of, I don't know, they're kind of Marmite-y, I think, in a way. The vocals perhaps were not the strongest suit for them for me. Maybe it was something to do with the mix or how it came across, but they were oddly the least well-sounding mixed band of the evening. I don't know how or why that was. They had tons of energy, especially the guitarist on the right-hand side of the stage. He had it loads, and their drummer was excellent. It was a well enough delivered show for what it was. I think if you like it, you would have really enjoyed that set in particular. I just, for whatever reason, find the chops and changes, the heaviness to the strange sort of character, unusual vocal deliveries at times, I don't fully understand, I think. Not even just conceptually within the songs, but sonically, it's just not quite the kind of vocals that I particularly connect with. I think it's probably as simple as that. So the Gloom in the Corner was not my favorite of the evening, but those that did like them seemed to be very pleased with that performance. And then we were on to the headline act of Cane Hill, who I have seen twice before live in my life. Once on the Dogtooth stage at Download Festivals, the smallest of stages many years ago, and that was like aggressive and chaotic and like maddening and quite entertaining. But the songs themselves at that time were pretty aggressive from start to finish and hard to get into if you don't necessarily know the songs on record first, I think. For example, I knew the song Time Bomb back then, and so I really enjoyed that song in particular live, but the rest of them I found it harder to kind of get into. They are getting better and better over time. And when they supported Resolve earlier this year in the UK, it was the best I've ever seen them, and they were like astronomically good. Fucking incredible. So I was so stoked to see them at the Underworld doing a headline set, so they play for longer, and hearing more of those new songs from their latest album. And they didn't disappoint. The only fractional disappointment was that I actually think the sound was better for the opening two bands than it was for Cane Hill and the Gloom in the Corner. I don't know why this happened, and because I was stood in largely the same place, but the bass didn't come through that much, the speakers for Cane Hill for me. So there was a lot of firepower available that I just couldn't hear because the bass was super quiet. Maybe it was better in other parts of the venue, I'm not really sure, but that's the only thing that was a bit of a bummer. Everything else about it, I fucking loved. I adore, their drummer is fantastic. Metronomic, great fills. He is the loudest bell cymbal hitter I've ever witnessed live. It's unfreaking believable. And it gives it a very kind of unique Cane Hill, now what I see as a Cane Hill live sound, which I enjoy. The guitarist was fantastic, nailed everything he was doing. Also engaging with the crowd. He was, coming forward here and there. Wasn't super shy about what he was performing, which was cool because he seems like a bit of a shy individual, but on stage he was coming alive during that set. And then there's Elijah, who is so charismatic. What's interesting about the way he performs live on stage these days, which I don't remember from the earlier days, is that there's a calmness about him. The music can be super fucking aggressive and his scream vocals, but he's sort of casually delivering it. And it's hard to explain, but that makes it somehow twice as compelling. It draws you in, like, how can he be so chilled and relaxed as he's concentrating on what he's doing, or just kind of vibing out with the crowd, and yet the aggression punches through. It's really, really impressive, and his vocals were impeccable. They've made excellent use of some selective vocal effects that bring out really what's going on in their latest album, especially when it comes to the melodic singing moments. There were some effects in there just to kind of tighten those up and help them pierce through in a way. I'm assuming they've done some sort of programming through some MIDI bits and pieces. I don't really know all the technical science behind it, but there's some kind of effects I think that are happening metronomically in different moments of the song that kind of switch on and switch off, which makes for a very good representation of what you'd hear on the album, which is quite cool. But then also you've got the real human being on stage delivering these things through the vocals. So that kind of brings everything around full circle, which is great. And the setlist opened with, I think, The Midnight Sun, which is my favorite song off of the latest album. So that was an amazing start. Played a bunch of hits throughout there, including Fade, of course. Permanence in Sleep. It's another fantastic song off that album. Drowning Therapy as well is another great song off of that album. The real surprise for me was that they played some great songs also from the other albums people enjoy, right? Lord of the Flies, etc. Their closing track, I was not expecting them to play at all, because I don't think they've played it the last couple of times I've seen them. And it was my introduction track to them, Time Bomb. And I still fucking love that song. It's one of the best bangers I've heard from start to finish. You just want pure aggression. Time Bomb by Cane Hill is amazing. And they closed on that song. I couldn't be happier about it. What's interesting though is they mentioned this might be the last time they play this live. I think they're tired of playing it. But it fucking slapped. But at the same time, although I was in that moment a bit disappointed, like, oh, I hope they play this more in future when I go and see them live because I love this. Actually, it's a great song. It's great live. I really enjoyed it. But their newer songs hit more. So it actually makes sense for them to transition more into their newer music live and lean into those. Time Bomb is starting to become of an era. They can pull that out here and there when they want in the future. But it was a fun closer. I enjoyed hearing that live. But really the story here is Cane Hill's new sound that they've found. This album they have of A Piece of Me I Never Let You Find is so good on record and also massively translating live in terms of what Cane Hill are capable of currently and give you an inkling of where they might go in future. They really found some gold with this new sound and this songwriting they've been doing recently. And it's absolute fire. I think they're doing phenomenal things. And I'm so excited to see where they go from here because their trajectory is definitely on and up based on this album and these tours they're doing recently. It was a joy to be there to see them play so many of those songs live. And I enjoyed the gig as a whole, really. The Gloom in the Corner had their moments that were enjoyable. I really was impressed and enjoyed, especially SWARM6IX, and InDevth did an excellent job as well. It was a wonderful night at the Underworld in Camden Town in London. If you get the chance to go see Cane Hill, 100% recommend. They are worth every penny of the ticket price. Which, to be honest, at the scale they're at is not that high. So see them now. Well, it's very affordable because I can see them going from strength to strength. They seem to be doing that. So well done to Cane Hill. It was an excellent, excellent live show in London. Now, I've got some other gigs I want to check out soon live as well. I do various live reviews on this channel, so if you enjoyed this, do make sure you're subscribed so you can see other videos I put out in future. I also review the latest and greatest rock music, and I have a podcast on the channel where I interview really interesting musicians and artists and industry professionals in the rock universe. So do stay tuned for more. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully I'll see you in another video very soon.